Hey, busy business people. I am here today with another entrepreneur taking action, Elizabeth Ruth. She runs an agency that specializes in helping experts create content without having to write everything themselves, right? And I'm getting the scoop today on how she does it. Right, so to kick things off, why do you think it is so important for experts and business owners to create content in the first place?
Storytelling. Number one, no one's going to know about you if they don't know your story, they don't understand your passion, and they don't know what products or services you sell.
That was a really simple way to put a very complex answer. So, let's talk about content in general, right? Like, me and you, we know what content means, but what is content? What types of content do they need to be putting out in the world?
Well, there's your old school content that is, postcards, newspaper ads. You can do that. But I specialize in digital marketing. And the four main pillars of what we use for digital marketing are your website, your blog post, emails or newsletters, and social media. And that can be on a multitude of platforms for any of those.
And there's a lot of types of content too, right? There's written, there's video, there's audio,
Yes.
like podcasts. There's so many different ways you can put that content out in the world. I think that's something a lot of people don't think about.
So again, I very simplified it into pillars, but yes, once you get into it, then it's how are you going to deliver that? What is your audience most attracted to hearing? Because right now, short videos are it. 30 seconds.
Yep.
And it's actually very powerful because it forces the company to be really concise in one digestible bite-size point that they want to make. So you don't go on and on, we're having a half hour, 45-minute podcast right here. We can really dive deep, but you're giving one little nugget and giving your own spin on it.
Yeah. I think that amazes me a lot, like on TikTok or YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels. And it's the stuff that they put and how much detail they can cover in 30 seconds to a minute. It is astounding how much people can cover in some of those. I'm constantly amazed by these creators. And even the 3-minute videos feel really
they do.
It's TikTok does them now. And it's just when is this going to end? And you scroll forward and it's crazy how well those shorts work. I love that you brought that one up. I think that's so powerful. And a lot of people don't realize all the platforms you can put them on. Because I know of at least the 3. There's Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok. So you make the little video, you've already got at least 3 that are designed for short videos.
And if you use a tool called Snaptik, it's Snaptik. It's a website. It's free. It will strip the TikTok logo, but it keeps your stickers. So, if you're pointing to things, it keeps that. It keeps the music. So I push mine out to LinkedIn. You can do it to Twitter. Twitter has stories, or they did. I don't know. They keep playing with it, different options. We push it out to Instagram, Facebook groups that I own, my Facebook page, every kind of social media, even Pinterest. They have stories now for videos. So you can just make a workflow awesome. And push it out everywhere.
See, and that's the stuff most people don't think about, and I haven't even heard of that tool, so that's really good. I'm definitely have to check that out. I've been doing it I haven't done the fancy videos yet. I've been playing around with it, but I haven't gotten into it yet, making them with all the stickers and all the thingy things.
And then I actually can upload it to Instagram Reels and I don't get dinged. Because if you have the TikTok marker, the sticker that says TikTok on it, and you're uploading to Instagram Reels, they won't push it out organically because they recognize that. But if you're using the tool, you've done the video, you can upload it and it still works. And it gets pushed out the same. So, And I'm all about work smarter, not harder. Make one piece of content, push it out everywhere. I think we're going to get into that in our conversation.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I wanted to get to next couple of questions. So I think that's really cool. Now, I know a big part of what you do, like you have a unique approach to getting people's expertise out of them when they create content, right? Because that's the hard part. You have to try and like share your knowledge. So can you tell us a little bit more about kind of that interview process and how that creates better
Sure.
content?
So I'm going to take a step back and just say why I decided to do that. When I was first starting the business, I knew that I loved to write and tell stories because I also love to watch stories. I'm a big movie watcher, Hallmark movies. Oh my gosh, they keep me entertained. Netflix series, like I love any kind of good story. So when I was networking, I thought, how can I do something just a little different to stand out and to bring even more value to my clients? Because I'm not an expert at plumbing, or I think I had a construction worker. Like I had no idea what they did, but I knew that they had stories that they didn't even know that they had. So when I was at networking events, I would introduce myself and learn more about the business. And one that comes to mind is it was a really cool business where it was a purifier for water. It was Japanese technology. I still don't really understand it, but it was a filtration, water filtration in home that you could use. And so the way that this woman explained her business and the passion for it and her why was amazing. I went home and I checked her out on her website. I checked her out on her social media because she gave me her business card. And the message digitally was very flat and disconnected to how she expressed herself. And then this was common. You learn something like, well, like, hey, this is interesting. So then whenever I would network, I would do the same thing. And I would find over and over that it was a disconnected message from how they verbally portrayed themselves and told their story versus how it was online. And what I learned was they were handing over their marketing to a marketing agency. Yay, getting support. That's amazing. But they were not involved in the creative process or designing what that content would be. So I've implemented an interview style approach. And what that means is we have an interview like Christina and I are having now, and we've figured out based on your goals, how often we're going to post, some topics of your key services and products or other promotions you have going on. Then once we have that strategy, I interview. Okay, Christina, tell me a little bit more about why you chose blue, for your hair color. Why is that your favorite color? And then why is that relevant to your audience? Why do they care in a nice way? And how can that message or call to action reach you to your goal? So that's why we do the interview style, because you just have to bring your love for what you do and your knowledge, your authority for the industry that you're in. And we pull out the story. The benefit also is I don't know why you've colored your hair blue, because I'm kind of boring here, no dye at all. So I can ask you questions in a way from someone who is not in that decision-making bubble, I guess. It's an arm's length approach for me to say, well, I'm curious. And then I've had people say, oh, you don't just know that? No. You become a victim of your own genius or your passion, where you just assume everyone knows. And, you're at this point, as we have mentioned, and they're a couple steps behind you, because maybe I'm at the part where I'm thinking, maybe I should cover these grays. I haven't even thought about that. But you talking about already been there, making that decision to color your hair and express yourself or whatever reasoning you have for it, that becomes the story, and that's going to hook them in and want to know more. Now, if you were a hairdresser, that would be relevant, but you see where I'm going with that example.
Yeah. And I think that is so true that people just we forget, because it's something that we've been in for years. It's something that, like, a lot of times the thing that we're doing and the service that we're selling is something that we are passionate about. So we've kind of always almost known more than your average person because we have sought that knowledge. Yes. And it's like for somebody else who's looking at potentially hiring you, they're hiring you because it's not something they're passionate about. It's not something that they, want to have all of this knowledge about. They want to know enough to know that they're making the right decision in hiring you. And I think like we forget, how to look at it from that angle. So being interviewed, I think that is so smart because like you're finding out about the things that, they don't think about anymore. They haven't thought, and you're coming to it with this fresh approach and asking the right questions. And it's going to really mirror what their target audience needs to, understand. I think that is so smart.
And I should say, when people think, oh my gosh, that's going to cost me more time and more energy, we can do a month's worth of social media in 1 hour. So just to put that in context, it's not a big time investment, but it's going to be 100% unique to you. And that passion, no one else can tell that passion like you can.
Yeah, and I think it's going to get more important. And I know this is kind of like a little side tangent, but most of us have heard of these like tools like Jarvis AI and things like that, all these like AI copywriters. And so what's going to happen is more and more people are using robots to write their copy because it's faster, because it's cheaper, because it's whatever. And so the copy that's going out in the world that is unique, that is sharing your voice, I think that copy is going to start to stand out so much more. Like it already kind of does, right? Because most people, when they hire a copywriter, all the copywriter is doing is hitting up Google, researching things that everybody else has already said, and trying to create a unique article. So it's just kind of like a Google cut up kind of thing. There's no uniqueness to it if you don't have that interview process. So the ones that come from like the actual experts always stand out. And I just feel like that's going to get so much bigger as more and more people are using tools like Jarvis and stuff like that and trying to write copy. It's like, I love Jarvis. I think it's great. Place. It helps reduce the mental calorie load to put out content, but it doesn't replace a human. It doesn't replace an expert. It doesn't replace passion. It just helps you write a little easier if you're missing all of those other elements.
Yep, for sure.
So
no, I agree. And on that point too, we are losing that personal touch. I truly feel, especially through this pandemic, that is why that short video has become so popular. People are craving interaction. We're stuck in our homes. I'm in Ontario, Canada, about an hour west of Toronto, and we're in lockdown again as of today. The kids are, doing homeschool again. Well, school from home. But that connection, right? Those stories, seeing people in, even if you can't always be doing video, if that's not something you're comfortable with, share the story, show a picture of you or show people. Yeah. That is what is really touching people's hearts, because when you hire someone, yes, there are the exceptions who will just say, well, I'm just going with this company because I've always gone with this company. But really, you're hiring the person in most cases, right? It's who you vibe with, who feel, understands what you're trying to get at the end result. And it's that person who you're hiring more than the company. So by telling your stories, that's how you can get it across.
You build know, like, and trust. The industry little phrase for that. It's like, and if we look at the creators that we like the most, the books we read, the courses that we've gotten the most value from, the workshops, the events where someone was on a stage, it's always a human that we're connecting more with. The best content is always a human. And it's like, if you outsource all of your humanity and don't have that interview step, you lose that. So I think that is so important. Now, I know the other thing that we kind of hit on a little bit, and we'll circle back around to, is repurposing content. So, like, this is a huge topic. I know repurposing content is something, like, there's so much content out there about repurposing content, which is huge. But, like, can you explain kind of what you do or what you recommend for, like, best practices to get mileage from your content without doing it badly?
So we're going to take, Christina, this podcast, for example. So after this podcast, you're probably going to order a transcript, or if you don't, you should order a transcript, which becomes all of your notes. That becomes quotables. So you can go through, grab little bite-sized quotes that you have said, a sentence or less, that becomes a little standalone post on social media. It could be something that you expand on in a video. It could be something you expand on in a blog post. You take the podcast, you take the highlights, you make a blog post out of it. Then you take the blog post. You can do this on social media to promote it a few ways. You can either just give a little bit of an excerpt in your social media, drive people to read the full post with a link in your bio so that you're going to read the full post, or you take out sections. So let's say you do an introduction, 3 main points that you expand on, and a conclusion. Well, each of those, that could be 3 to 5 blog posts. Or sorry, social media posts rather, where you're chunking it up. So you have your first point, and that's just a standalone point that you make it. There's light rewriting because you obviously have to make it sensible to read on its own, but it can become social media posts. And then also what you can do is, well, you're going to promote this video on YouTube. You can, if you so desire, you could yourself or hire someone on Fiverr to chop it up based on those sections. You can embed the video into your blog post, which I don't want to get too technical, but a bounce rate is essentially the longer you keep people on your website, the more Google will, for free, organically put you up in the rankings. So then you're also giving a variety of options to keep people on your website. You're going to link on that blog post to other podcasts that had similar content, because if someone's interested in that, they're probably going to be interested in the other one that you've done. And it's going to have video as well. And then what you can do is create an email or a newsletter. I use the term a little bit interchangeably, but if it's a newsletter style, it can be a roundup of everything that you've done that week or that month, whatever period you're doing. So your top social media posts, or if you have a new podcast, you're going to want to send people there. Or if you have a new blog post, you're going to want to send people there, because ultimately, your funnel will be grab them from social media, bring them to your website so that they can sign up for your newsletter, so that you can ultimately convert them into a client, because they're going to love you and everything you're putting out. So when you wrap it up in a little bow and say, hey, VIP on my email list, you don't have to go check when I post on Facebook or my blog or my podcast. I'm going to just give it to you in your inbox whenever it's ready for you to digest.
Yep, I think that is so powerful. And I think a lot of people, I love the way you approach that. And I hope our listeners are picking up on that, right? It's like some people, when they repurpose content, they arbitrarily chop up the video. So they would take something like this podcast and they're just going to go grab like 3 or 4 1-minute sections, and they're going to create audiograms, and they're going to create stuff. And they're just going to keep putting out just these kind of pieces of information that aren't necessarily complete. Like they don't tell a story on their own. They just like grabbed these like rando snippets and tossed them out in the world. And so a lot of people do that kind of stuff when they're repurposing. But what you're recommending is like find some like core pieces, and like you can look back at just some of the stuff that we've talked about, right? Like we talked about why it's important to put out content. That could be a whole topic all on its own. You could write a whole blog, post just about how important it is to put out content. We talked about how important the interview process is to creating unique content. That could be a whole nother topic. We talked about how repurposing content is important, and that could be a whole nother topic. So it's like what you're advocating is more find those themes that are going on, these like things that could stand alone, and expand on those and make more content that way, not just arbitrarily cutting up rando chunks and throwing them out into the world, which we see a lot of people do because it's budget friendly. But you make one video, you fire it off to a company that'll just go chop it up into lots of pieces and put it out in the world. And you get all these just kind of almost useless bits of content because people are focusing on quantity over quality. And it just, it's painful. It's painful when I see people do that. It's like, come on, like this much more effort. And you could have made that a really good standalone piece. And instead you like, it was like, there should be a to be continued, and there's no continued.
And that's very popular on TikTok. A lot of people will say, go check out part 1 or stay tuned for part 2. That's what you do.
Yeah, and if you watch the comments, people get so mad about
but
that.
the algorithm loves it because you're sending people back to your feed and you're driving it up. And that's not just the TikTok algorithm. Let me geek out a bit if you don't mind, Christina, just for 1 second. The number one goal of social media platforms, of search engines, is to give people exactly what they're looking for. How do they know that you are giving them what they're looking for? That bounce rate, because they're staying longer on the platform on your account. So whether that's your website, whether that's your TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, if they're continuing to scroll, you're getting credit for that. You are getting behind the scenes points. Yay, you're keeping them on because you're giving value and you're keeping people where we want it. So that is the payoff for why it's important to be thoughtful and strategic in how you deliver your marketing. It doesn't have to be complicated. As I just said, you take, like, I use a highlighter for the transcript or a blog post, and I'm just like, these are my chunks. This is what I'm doing this week. So the theme of the week could be how to maximize your content. And then you can unpack, as Christina said, interview style, where to post it, look at video versus audio versus written content. That could be something that you unpack. And then you could even do a standalone one because you want to interlink to all these things. And you can do even a standalone where you really deep dive into video and you're sharing your own spin on it. That is why people are going to come to you, because you have a unique way that makes you stand out, because you're just that little bit different than the next person who has a marketing agency or whatever your business is.
Yeah. Well, I know that's something I tell people all the time. It's like, I think we get so used to some of these services that we forget that they're businesses. Like, we look at Google and we just expect it to be around. It's just a search engine. We don't think about, well, how do they make money? How are they around? What is their purpose? What are they trying to do? And it's like, we think Google's purpose is to help, people find us, but it's not. It's to help people find the right answer to the question they're asking, to find the best possible, most relevant, most up-to-date answer to the question that they're asking. If you're answering the right questions, ta-da, now you're it, And it's like, social algorithms, especially TikTok, are so good at that, at making sure that you're finding content that you like to see. And so if you're putting out stuff that's consistent messaging wise, if you're, being pretty consistent about what you do, it's easier for the algorithm to say, like, oh, here's somebody like you. And this person's been following all the stuff that they do. So therefore, let's show them some of your stuff too, because they're likely to like it. And it's like, these algorithms will work for you really good.
Yes, people often complain.
Like, they want
people often complain, oh, the algorithm's not working. The algorithm's not working. No, you're not giving the algorithm what it needs. Because to take it even a step further, looking at Google or TikTok or whatever platform you're on, what is their main purpose for keeping people on the platform? Because the more followers they get, the more they can charge for ad revenue for when businesses go to place advertisements, because they have to show a return on investment before someone's even willing to give some money. And let's track that to our own business. That's our goal. We want, why am I doing this? What is the return on my investment? Why am I doing TikToks 5 times, a week or whatever you're doing? Because you're connecting with people in a different way. You're giving yourself content to share. And that connection with people is ultimately going to drive you to discovery calls or to purchase a product or to research you a little bit more, which gets you the sale.
Yep. I think that is so powerful to understand. So now, like, as we're kind of wrapping up here, like, do you have any final advice or tips or anything that you would like to share with our listeners?
Yes. It doesn't have to be complicated to get started, because you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, I have to do what? So if a blog post is overwhelming, Don't start with a blog post. Start with something that you're comfortable with. Let's say it's posting on social media 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Come up with themes or a formula. So on Mondays, you share a behind the scenes of what it's like to be an entrepreneur or what you do, make your product, offering your service, what a day in the life is of you. So that could be Mondays. Every Monday you share that. Wednesdays, you share a specific product or service. You unpack that. And then Fridays, maybe you're asking an engagement question because it's social media. We don't want to just sell. We want to engage with people, and information that people give you is gold. If you ask the right question, if you're coming up, Christina's going to dye her hair next month. She wants a new color. What color should she do? Right? There's a poll. So what service or product are you thinking of? Ask a little bit of a question without giving away your secret sauce that will help you do a popular product before you've even made it.
I think that is so powerful. And that's powerful in the creator realm too. So the info product realm, like if you're thinking about a course or you're thinking about, you know, a webinar or a master class or whatever that you're thinking about putting together, like you can do that kind of thing too. So like, I think that's really cool. And then I will tell you my personal strategy when I hear something that I should be doing that seems very overwhelming and I'm sitting there going, oh man, this is perfect, but like I can't do all that stuff. Go find an expert. Go find somebody like Elizabeth that has made this their passion, because what they're going to do for you is overwhelming, which is a great segue into my next thing. Tell us more about you. So who do you like to work with? Where can they find you? And what do you do for them?
So I will give you my little, hi, I'm Elizabeth. And at ER Marketing Services, we design marketing strategies and write content for your website, your blog posts, your social media, and your emails or newsletters. And through our interview style approach, we can really dig into your goals so that we're not just posting whatever. It's going to be intentional. The calls to action on everything is going to lead people to where you want. So you want to sell blue hair dye for January? Great. We're going to make sure that all the content or half of the content is going to gear people towards that goal. If you want to have more discovery calls, we can, ask questions based on that. So that is why we do what we do. And I actually have a quiz that I think would be helpful because, as I was mentioning, don't feel overwhelmed. Start with one thing and fold in the next step when you feel comfortable, like a bullseye, right? Master one layer, then go to the next layer that is going to still help you with the first one. So I have a quiz, and it basically says, where do I go next with my marketing? I have a link that I'm going to give Christina, but it's bit.ly/Christina quiz, all lowercase. And that will let you answer no more than 10 questions. And wherever you land, we'll make a recommendation on what makes sense for what you've done to do next.
I think that's really great. Thank you so much for creating that resource.
And it's fun.
It's awesome.
It's fun to answer questions and just be like, oh, that's the answer. Great. Let me just do it.
Yeah, I think that's always people's problems, right? It's like, what do I do next? Where do I go from here? So I'll make sure I have that link wherever you guys are watching this video from, out on the interwebs. We will have that link somewhere around the video, so definitely check it out. I will also link to your website so people can find you and find out more about you. And I think that would be so helpful for people. So thank you so much for the resources. Thank you for coming on the show and for sharing your expertise. I think this has been really great.
Thank you for having me, Christina. It's been a lot of fun. Obviously, I'm passionate about what I do because I can see I'm talking with my hands a lot, and that's when I know I love what I'm doing. So I'm passionate. I want to help you with your passion, either through this conversation, the notes that you've taken, or if we do connect, I'd love to tell your story.
I think that is so awesome. I would definitely recommend you guys go check her out. Like, it is so powerful to hire people that have that passion. So I love it. Thank you again.
Thanks.
So much. Hey, entrepreneurs, guys, this is your call to take action, right? Head over to etatoday.zone, subscribe, and learn how to build a business that enables your lifestyle instead of taking over your life. Until next time, guys. Bye.